Single dad accepted $800 to drive a VIP. What she said in the car stunned him. The night he accepted the ride, the city felt heavier than usual, like the weight of unpaid bills and unanswered prayers had settled into the air. He was a single father running on coffee, hope, and a dashboard light that refused to turn off. When the request flashed on his phone with an amount that looked unreal for a simple drive, he hesitated for only a second. $800 could keep the lights on, buy groceries for a week, and maybe even leave a little room to breathe. He didn't know then that this drive would change the direction of his life, not because of where the car would go, but because of what would be said inside it. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. Stories like this remind us that hope often arrives when we least expect it. He had not always been a driver. Once, he wore a different uniform and carried a different kind of pride. Life unraveled after loss came knocking, the kind of loss that hollows out a home and leaves a child asking questions you don't know how to answer. Responsibility didn't give him time to grieve properly. He sold what he could, took whatever work he could find, and learned how to stretch silence into strength. Nights were the hardest, when his son slept and the city's lights blurred into memories through the windshield. Driving was honest work, he told himself. It paid for school lunches and shoes that grew too fast. It kept him moving forward. The pickup location glowed outside a building of glass and guarded entrances. When she stepped into the back seat, the air changed. She carried herself with a calm confidence, dressed for a world he no longer belonged to, yet there was a weariness in her posture that money could not hide. The address she gave was short, too short for the amount offered, but he didn't question it. He pulled into traffic, careful and quiet, letting the hum of the engine fill the space between them. As the city slid past, she asked about him in a way that felt different, not polite curiosity but genuine interest. He answered simply, careful not to spill too much of his story. He mentioned his son without thinking, how mornings were rushed and evenings were full of homework and promises. The word surprised him as they left his mouth. He had learned to keep his life contained, but something about the steady pace of the drive loosened the knots he kept tied tight. She listened, really listened, and then she shared something that stunned him. She spoke about a man she once knew, a driver who helped her on a night when everything had gone wrong. He had refused extra money, chosen compassion over convenience, and in doing so had saved her from a decision she could not take back. She explained that the kindness of a stranger had redirected her life, pushing her toward success she never expected, a success that now gave her the power to give back. As she spoke, her voice carried a gravity that made the road feel smaller, as if the city itself leaned in to hear. The challenge he faced in that moment was not traffic or time. It was the mirror her story held up to his own life. He had been so focused on survival that he forgot the quiet influence of small choices. He remembered nights when he had carried his sleeping son from the car, whispering promises into the dark. He remembered choosing patience when exhaustion begged him to give up. Her words pressed against his doubts, reminding him that dignity still lived in the work he did. She then revealed why she booked the ride for such an amount. She explained that she searched for drivers who carried responsibility in their eyes, people who showed up despite life's bruises. The money, she said, was not a payment for distance but an investment in someone who deserved breathing room. She talked about her foundation, about helping parents who were one emergency away from losing everything. The car felt impossibly quiet as her meaning settled in. He kept his eyes on the road, afraid that if he looked back, the weight of it would undo him. The struggle he carried rose to the surface. Pride told him to refuse charity. Fear told him to accept and move on. But something deeper, something shaped by fatherhood, told him to listen. She asked him to keep driving, to let the city pass while she explained how close she had once been to giving up, how a stranger's kindness had taught her that receiving help did not make her weak. It made her human. By the time they reached the destination, the night had softened. She asked him to consider applying for support, not as a handout but as a bridge. She encouraged him to see himself not as a man scraping by, but as a father building a future. When the ride ended, the payment went through, and with it came a message of encouragement that felt heavier than the money itself. He sat there for a moment after she left, hands resting on the wheel, breathing in the quiet. For the first time in a long while, the future didn't feel like an enemy. The days that followed were different. The money paid bills, yes, but it also bought something rarer. It bought time. Time to attend a school meeting without panic. Time to cook dinner without watching the clock. Time to sleep without fear. He applied for the support she mentioned, unsure and humbled, and weeks later received help that stabilized his world. He started planning again, small plans at first, then bigger ones. He smiled more. His son noticed. Near the end of this story, if it has touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps keep these stories alive for others who need them. Before we close, leave a comment sharing whether you believe one act of kindness can truly change a life. On a quiet evening months later, he drove past the same glass building. The city looked different now, not kinder, but more understandable. He realized the drive that changed his life was not about luck or VIPs. It was about being seen at the exact moment he was close to disappearing. He parked, turned off the engine, and headed home, carrying with him the knowledge that even in the hardest seasons, hope sometimes rides quietly in the back seat, waiting for the right moment to speak.